Hello and welcome to Mayhem with your host, May.
Hello. This week we're going to be talking about blind faith, and this is the month of faith. Last weekend we went to Albuquerque, and we happened to witness some blind faith in reality. So I don't know about everybody else, but for me, blind faith is when you follow the word of a preacher or a biblical ideal or something, and you ignore everything else. So for pro-choice, pro-life, the people who are pro-life follow the idea that life begins at conception. No matter what, no matter if the woman who's pregnant was raped, no matter if the woman who's pregnant can't afford the baby and has no opportunity for different things that'll help her, like adoption or getting help from the government because, she shouldn't be on welfare anyway. All of that is not taken into account except for this fact that life begins at conception. And that's blind faith. So when we were in Albuquerque, we saw a religious zealot. And it was not scary, but it was like on the verge of violence. And it was both horrifying and sad for the man because he couldn't see any way outside of his box. And just seeing a person being exactly who they are angered him to the point of flipping us off. And it made no sense. I just felt bad. I wanted to know everything about him. I wanted to know who gave him this idea, who he followed, what Bible verses he liked. Did he read the Bible every day? What church does he go to? I want to know everything. Because to have that much feeling and that much zealotry and that much religious idolatry is overwhelming, and it's something that I sit in awe of. Another place where they have a lot of idealism and blind faith is cults. You just have one charismatic person who talks about a bunch of mumbo jumbo that sounds really peaceful and really calming and really spiritual, and then all of a sudden you have a bunch of people blindly following somebody for no reason other than who they are. Blind faith is dangerous. Faith is not dangerous as long as you make sure that you have an open mind, and doubts are really, really important when it comes to faith. When you have faith, you also must doubt. The two go hand in hand. You can't have faith without doubting, because the more you doubt, the more you research, the more you think about it, and the more faith you end up having at the end of the day. So for me, faith and doubting go hand in hand, and when you have blind faith, you don't have the doubting, so you don't keep researching, you don't keep thinking, you don't keep questioning the same ideas over and over, and you never grow. So, a couple more things I wanted to talk about that just dawned on me today, just because the ideas are really a lot of fun. So I was listening to a podcast this morning of my favorite, my muse, my lady that I can read every word she writes and still be happy. Elizabeth Gilbert was in a podcast with Russell Brand, and this was just a couple months ago. And she said a couple things in this podcast that really made me go, wow. And actually, one of the things that she said in this podcast, I literally stopped in the middle of my walk, in the middle of the sidewalk, in the middle of nowhere. I just stopped, and I'm like, holy shit. So she talks about archetypes, and she talks about the archetype of the trickster. And this is somebody who always questions and always joyfully questions and joyfully plays with these big, heavy thematic ideas in your life, but they're just chronically playing and testing it out and pushing the limits. And then there's the martyr, who has these beliefs and these faiths and these ideals, and these are such strongly based, rooted ideas and thoughts in their being that they die for it. So there's a martyr versus a trickster. And she was talking about how this well-known contemporary pastor, might I add that my theory is that this is Rob Bell, said, she was talking to him about these archetypes, and she's like, isn't it sad that one of the only religions that does not have this trickster archetype in it is Christianity? And this pastor looked at her and he's like, well, who do you think Jesus was? Jesus was a trickster that they made into a martyr. And that made me stop in my tracks and be like, holy shit. Changes your entire point of view. So that's something to think about. And the other thing that came to me this morning that when I was meditating is I've really been struggling with my mindfulness, with staying in the presence. If you've ever met me, and everybody who's met me has told me the same thing, I am all over the place. I have undiagnosed ADHD, I think, but I'm all over the place, so I can be thinking about one thing now, and then in 2 minutes from now, I'm going to be 10 steps ahead of you. And then I'm going to say something 10 steps ahead of you, but I'm not going to bring you up to date with where my head is. That's the way I think, that's the way I act, that's the way I move. So, being able to stop thinking ahead or stop languishing in the past and just living in the present is one of the biggest challenges that I have ever undertook. And it's the one that I constantly, chronically do and worry about and challenge every single day. So one of the things that I was told this morning in my meditation that I should think about is I need to think about this moment right now. And in this moment, am I getting joy? Is this moment bringing me joy? Is what I'm doing right now bringing me joy? Is reading this book bringing me joy? Is spending time with my family bringing me joy? Is taking this walk or doing anything like that, is it bringing me joy? Or is it helping me grow? Like when I go to work, that helps me grow. When I do these boring-ass seminars, that helps me grow. If I'm not doing one of those two things, if I'm not growing or being in joy, then what am I doing? So that was also something that I was told to think about this morning. The book I wanted to talk about today is called The Chain by Adrian Mckinty. This is a thriller. This is like Gone Girl. This is something that you will devour in 1 to 2 sittings. It was phenomenal. But I think what I liked about it most, what I brought with me, what brought it to mind today was the cult undertones and the destruction that cults can bring not only to your family, but to everybody's family. And so I'm not going to go any further from there because I don't want to have any spoilers, but it was a really good, really thoughtful, really, really well done thriller. So what do I want to take home today from this? I want you to think about your faith. And I want you to think about your doubts. And if they're going hand in hand and they're chronically arguing and chronically fighting each other, then you know what? You're doing something right. A couple prayer requests. I want to pray for my cousin Jenny, who's sick with COVID and she had complications and she had surgery. And just keep her in your prayers and keep everybody else who's experiencing difficulties with this disease, whether they're working on it, whether they're an essential worker, or whether they're dying and their family has to deal with that. All of those are reasons why this disease is not fake and that we need to protect ourselves and other people, and we need to keep them in our thoughts and help in any way possibly that we can, the most simple of that being wear a goddamn mask. So, thank you so much, and have a good night, and I will talk to you next week. Next week, we're going to talk about religions versus being agnostic versus atheism. So I hope you have a wonderful week. I'll talk to you later. Bye.